Cool in here, isn't it?
Mhm.
I'm gonna put my coat back on.
We'll get close. It's cold.
That's colder today for sure.
I saw something on my line.
And for everybody that's on the call, we're just gonna give everybody just a few more minutes to join,
Yeah, right.
probably about just 2 or 3, and then we will commence the meeting.
Cold.
He walks in here, Eddie caught him walking one day in and out of the post, and he broke his.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm in the old Flushing. Pretty sorry. I only joined because my friends were all there, and then they sold the building. I don't have to answer emails anymore. Everybody I know is dying.
You're that
I
air.
know what the World War II get that guys feel like.
Yeah.
Should be a song.
It's a weekend, winter, 21. Guys.
Okay, it's just about 6:05, so we'll go ahead and commence the meeting this evening. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the Veterans Advisory Board Public Session for Queens. My name is Mercedes Elias. I am the chair of the Veterans Advisory Board, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, also Operation Enduring Freedom veteran. We will start today's meeting with having our board members who are present doing an introduction to themselves. We'll go ahead and start with the board members that are present here at the VFW located in Corona, and then I'll turn it over to those that are on the board virtually. So we'll go ahead and start here, Ryan.
Ryan Graham, Air Force vet, served in Iraq, and that's it.
John Rowan, Air Force veteran, Vietnam.
Brandon Gibbons, Marine Corps veteran.
Wendy McClinton, Army veteran.
Joshua
Supal, United States Navy Corpsman.
And Paul.
Paul Dietrich, Army veteran, served in Iraq.
And Marissa. Not sure if Marissa is able to communicate. And we just want to acknowledge if there are any council members, any elected officials, or the representatives on virtually, if you can introduce yourselves if you are present. Okay, normally to Councilmember Holden's office will normally send a representative for him or himself. I do know that the commissioner is on his way. So we're gonna give them a little bit, he's on virtually. But what we're gonna do today is start on some old business. So some items that were brought up during the first session in Manhattan, which covered claims and benefits. So we're gonna cover some items for that. Just so everybody's aware, every meeting we do want to cover one of the charters for the Department of Veteran Services. So today's subject is going to be housing. Next session, which is in Staten Island, is going to cover healthcare, and the topic is going to be mental health. So in regards to old business, there are a number of items that we wanted to address. The first being the update on the discretionary contracts, the Department of Veteran Service was approved to actually approve. So Commissioner Hendon, I will go ahead and turn that over to you.
Hey, Mercedes, thank you so much. And thanks again for allowing us to be here. Yeah, one of those updates. So just roughly 50 discretionary contracts are awarded each year to organizations by the city council that do things that involve helping our to kind of help them with the process of stewarding that contract through fruition as far as reimbursement, execution, and everything. And so for us, this fiscal year, DVS has received 5 contracts that veteran organizations through their council members to help to execute. And so those are called PASS. And right now, 3 of the 5 have populated, waiting to populate. And the way that these things work, usually a nonprofit applies for council funding. They receive that green light to go obtain the funding, but they've got to do the work first, and then they obtain reimbursement. And so right now we're matching with these entities that now need to obtain reimbursement. These are folks who have until June 30th to finish executing on whatever they're to execute the end of this fiscal year for the city of New York, and we'll help them be reimbursed. And so right now we've got 3 out of the 5. We're hoping that after this experience, we can continue to expand and help more of our council awardees, our contract awardees, so that this can be a piece of what we do, so that more of those contracts are, rather than flowing through the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, or flowing through the Human Resources Administration, or flowing through the Department of Cultural Affairs, that more of these veteran contracts flow through us. And so more to follow on that. And the Cliff Notes is, of the 50, we have 5 right now as our pilot with this. 3 have populated automatically, and we're waiting for the other 2 to populate. We're hoping these entities receive reimbursement for services for work they've done through this fiscal year for the city.
And Commissioner, can you just go over the amount up to which you can approve? Because I know that we had covered that previously. And also for anyone that's interested in applying for one of these discretionary contracts for the next fiscal year, when they can actually apply for that and where they can go to look at the criteria for that?
Good questions. All right, so there's no amount as far as what's approved. And it's not that we're approving anything. It's that someone applies for a contract, and then their city council member will say, look, I'm going to award this, or it could be coming from a committee like the Veterans Committee. They say, we're going to award this group this amount, and they're doing things for veterans. So there's no dollar amount. It's really determined by that council member or members what that group receives. It's who's processing these things. But these first 5 contracts, these are all small contracts as we are getting our first bite of the apple here. So each of these contracts are no more than $5,000, often for small programs or events. And so this is just our first foray into this. And anyone who's interested in applying for this, every year in February is when the deadline exists for nonprofit, for city council discretionary funding, vet council funding. So if you go to nyc.gov/vet council funding, you'll see this most recent iteration of this. And we update it with the dates as soon as we get it for the following fiscal year. So right now, if you go to nyc.gov/vet council funding, you'll see everything that was targeted for folks who had to apply by February of 2024. As soon as we get the new information, we update it, but everything that you need to know as you navigate that process, it is there at nyc.gov/vet council funding.
Good.
Hey, Commissioner Hendon, is there a way we can, on the DVS website, can we put down put up the process? Because just to throw out a rough number, so there's about 50 VSOs, give or take, in Queens. And I noticed that on the list, there's only 2. I believe it's the PLAV and the VVA Chapter 32 that have actually put in for the funding. I think that's what's kind of deterring a lot of VSOs to applying for this, because there's just so much red tape. One of them actually being, I believe it's the New York State Attorney General's Charities Bureau, which that can be a long process. Is there any way we can kind of do like a step-by-step, like sort of SOP we could put together and maybe put on the website?
Right now, they got a presentation about this on the website. We've got it on Vet Council funding right now. as far as like how to do this stuff. And so when you go to there, that's something that's already there, and that's existing content that all veteran organizations have access, all nonprofits have access to. So when you go to Vet Council Funding, or nyc.gov/vet council funding, there's a link there that has that. So that's one thing we've got. I'm happy to go back to the drawing board and see if there's anything else we can put together, but it's the link that says presentation on the FY25 discretionary expense and capital process. It kind of talks about like what those steps are in a broader way.
All right.
Thank you. The
Yeah,
next
it's a whole thing
item,
about how to apply and everything. Yeah.
thank you. The next item from old business is the update on the Veterans Experience Action Center. It was mentioned during the last meeting that there was a potential for claims processing at Yankee Stadium targeted for September 2024. Can you give us an update on if that is actually going to happen and if the timeframe is still on target?
Absolutely. Yes, two things need to happen for this to occur. One is getting a green light for Yankee Stadium, which we've gotten that recently. And so the date we're looking at is September 20th, 2024. That's a Friday, September 20th. So that's already set. The other one was being on board with them as far as having VA bring all of its assets to bear at that site so that we can help veterans who need access to between the Veteran Benefits Association, Veterans Health Administration, and the National Cemetery Administration to get that access. And so it's called a Veterans Experience Action Center. It's a relatively new concept that the VA has just started about 2 years ago, where they go to select cities across America, and the cliff notes of it, if you show up with all of your paperwork as far as your medical information, military information, service information, et cetera, you can walk away on that very day with the rating, because they bring all of their assets as far as those who deal with the comp and pen exam portion, those who deal with the benefits portion of it. And so all of it is flexed at one location. So we asked to have it flexed to Yankee Stadium on September 20th. And so more to follow about that, but that'll be September 20th. It'll be within the 9 to 5 window. So during working hours, so during that part of the day, and you'll see a surge of assets from the VA on site available for folks who need to get these types of things done.
Thank you. And then the last piece of old business that we needed to cover was the claim status update. It was brought up from numerous members that although Michael Bikini took over in January, and that's when he started taking metrics, there were a number of veterans who had actually applied for claims assistance since around 2020, 2021. And so we were looking for some follow-up for those cases that were referred to the state DVS, where those claims are in the processing, if the veterans that had reached out had been contacted, any sort of information from the moment that DVS kind of offered claim service assistance and to now when it's kind of formalized as of January, what is the status of those claims that had been contacted and started the process previously?
Got it. So it's, and sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but Mike, yeah, I've got to check this as far as when Mike started with us, but we ran the search from October 22nd, 2023. Prior to that, I think Mike came on with us in the fall is when he officially came on. And so we took a search from October 22nd, 2023 prior to that. And with that search, a couple of things. One is that there were 493 occasions where our accredited folks used VetOps, so the state system through which we can communicate with the VA, to communicate with the VA in a material way. So 493 times we communicated everything from, it could be an intent to file submitted, it could be a compensation mission request submitted, it could be something involving a burial benefit that was submitted, general correspondence with the VA, a waiver request, so someone had a debt from VA and they wanted a waiver, all these types of things. So it's 493 different instances. 101 have an award associated with it. So 101 times is some sort of award, which were mostly for compensation, and there are a couple for pension as far as like an award tied to it. And so that's kind of where we are. Also, there were 126 folks who were in our system. There was a period before Mike came when we didn't have anyone in charge of that claims team. So we had 126 people who were in the chute, who put intents to file up, but we still needed to serve. We got those folks over to New York State DVS. And so right now, we know that the state has told us we followed up with each of these people at least once. We're cutting down that list now, also following up just to check as far as whatever was submitted, whatever was done or not done. And then for the other list, as far as the 493 things submitted, we've got to continue to chop that tree down and go through every single instance to know what the story is. Because it could be, let's say I had 3 different claims. I say I put something in for my back, something in for my knees, something in for my vision. Those are 3 different requests within that bucket of the 493. And so we've got to do more and take more time to kind of dig into those so we have more of the backstory there. So the top line here, there are 493 times we communicated in a material way with the VA as a claims team, October 22nd, 2023, previous to that. Out of that, a monetary award attached to it. Doesn't include burials, it's a different bucket. But most of these were compensation-related awards and some related to VA pension. And we have 126 people whom we did give to the state when we were at a time without leadership of our claims team to kind of make sure those folks who had intent to file would be followed up on. And we know the state followed up with each of them at least once. We're following up ourselves to kind of make sure that we can stick the landing for anybody where there's a loose end there. So I hope that answers that question.
It does here. I'm just gonna open at the floor for anybody if they have any questions regarding any of the old business. And anybody on the call.
We also do, well, you mentioned earlier, we do have somebody here representing an elected official, AOC.
Okay, and we do have a representative of one of our elected officials.
Jeffrey Montoya, he is the Veterans Liaison. I'm probably butchering the title for Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you for that, Ryan. Okay, so if nobody has any questions, that does close out old business. Now we will turn it over to DVS to cover housing support services that are available for veterans and go into the different components of that. So Commissioner Hendon, I will turn it over back to you.
Hey, Mercedes, I've got Lamar with me. I just sent you the presentation. I haven't already put it up. We just have a presentation on housing that we're happy to deliver as far as, content. That's okay. And I'm right outside, so I'm gonna walk inside right now, okay? So I'm gonna stay with you guys, but I'm gonna walk inside, so I'll be with those in the flesh, okay?
Okay, got it.
Mercedes, did you receive that or do you need me to?
I did not receive it.
Faustino?
The work one?
Hey, everybody, sorry about that.
Nah, no problem.
Hey, okay, sorry.
Omar, how are you doing?
Let me know when you got it, Mercedes.
I'm just waiting for it to come.
Thanks for this flexibility. Meanwhile, Lamar, you can start talking to folks. Just let them know what's up. Yeah, and then we'll pull this up.
The camera's right there, Lamar, if you just want to look into that. And we have a mic back here, so it should be able to pick you up. You can close out of that little front one and I'll change over to you.
Slides. I'm resetting that, right? Even not.
They have not come in.
I'm saying, I may share from my computer, if it's okay, I can just throw it.
Sure.
Yes, we got you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lamar Wheeler. I'm the Senior Director for Housing and Supportive Services for the Department of Veteran Services. I have a team of 4 housing professionals. And these housing professionals are tasked to do a multitude of different tasks for our homeless veteran population in shelter. We provide housing prep to get the veterans ready for rental. We assist with the attainment of a housing subsidy if their income is within the limits of them acquiring one. There are maximum income thresholds for most vouchers. At the same time, we make a determination as to what is the best fit for a veteran as far as housing. What is the best fit as far as are they eligible for, are they VA eligible? We make that determination because we know that there are other benefits that come with being VA eligible. So my team, they do that, they make that determination. They find out if an individual is, say, qualified for HUD-VASH, which is the VA's housing subsidy. And in most cases, it trumps the others, and there are others. So once we make a determination and take into consideration some other things, as far as needs, healthcare, mental health, employment for those individuals, for some of the younger ones. Our population is probably 60%, 50 and above. So that's the housing prep phase. Once we, also during the housing prep phase, we know that the New York City housing market demands certain documentation, such as a DD 214. We want to make sure that they're veterans. Either a DD 214 or a statement of service is what's required. Income, how are they going to pay their rent? So we assist in linking the veteran to the necessary agencies like SSI, public assistance. If they have a pension, we help them tap into that. We help them establish bank accounts. Some don't have bank accounts, so we assist them with attaining that because we know that the rental package that we're going to submit for either HUD-VASH or any other housing subsidy, they're going to want to know, they're going to want a copy of your checking account. They want to see if you have they want to look at your finances, just as the bottom line. Okay? They have to take into consideration they're checking us regarding your income, your maximum income limit, right? So we've helped acquire the necessary documentation for the rental package. We move into the housing placement stage. We assist we contact landlords, management companies, to find out if, based on the desires of the veteran or the veteran family, I want to live in the Bronx. I want to live in Queens. I want to live in one of the 5 boroughs. Okay. We have adequate contacts with brokers that furnish every one of those boroughs. All right. So we set up a viewing date where the veteran or the veteran family will go out and view the unit, okay? Based on the family size, okay? Whether it's a 1-bedroom, we deal predominantly with single veterans, but we do work with families. I placed a family a couple of years ago, a family with 11. That was a challenge, but we got it done. All right, so we arranged for the transport out of shelter to the unit site. We arranged for transportation, there, back. The veteran goes, they look at it, and they say, I want to move forward. Once they say that, we lock down this housing subsidy that they're going to be using. And there are there's more than just HUD-VASH. There is collaborative case management, which is one that we issue through NYCHA for veterans who do not meet the VA eligibility criteria. So what does that mean? They get the same type of voucher as a veteran who is eligible for the VA, and we provide the case management. So that means if the individuals have some other need, or they need some support while they're in-house, when they're permanently housed, we provide that. And remember, there are only 4 of us, 5 including me, for the 5 boroughs. We're small, but we're very nimble. We get around. Okay?
Which side was yours?
You don't need that. I'll just
Good. Okay.
All right, so we've gone from housing prep, housing placement, we've locked down the voucher, whatever voucher they're gonna use. The client or the family has agreed to a specific unit. We start gathering all the documentation that's needed so that we can submit to HRA, which is our finance end of this process. We submit it to them. They look it all over. They look at the submit, they coordinate with the landlord to get the lease. We also look at the building itself. We're not gonna send somebody to a place that has violations within it, okay? We know down the road, it could be an issue. We know down the road that if there are certain violations, that the tenants have to vacate. So we're not gonna put the veteran through that, you know, if at all possible. All right, so we ensure that the building does not have any violations that would cause the landlord or HPD to say, you have to leave. All right. Housing prep, housing placement, we lock down the voucher, we assist with we do the submission of the rental package. We receive the rental package back, we receive what we call the move-in letter. The move-in letter says that the landlord has agreed and NYCHA has agreed on this rental. Okay, once that happens, we set up a time and a date and a time to move the veteran or the veteran family out of shelter into their permanent housing. That's a wonderful thing. That's the payoff for the 5 of us. We move on average anywhere from 10 to 12 people a week, on average. And that's the payoff for us, that somebody that was previously homeless is now living independently on their own with their family, or in a place that they feel safe. Okay. Once they are housed, we don't stop there. We don't just leave them hanging. We have an aftercare program for those individuals that are linked to our collaborative case management voucher. As I mentioned before, that's the voucher that is not supported by the VA. That's the voucher that's supported by us. We stay with them. We check in with them 30 days, 90 days, 120 days, and a year if need be, okay? So if they begin to have, we watch to see how they integrate into the community, how they integrate with their neighbors, how they integrate with the management companies. Sometimes we have to intercede and do some mediation, minor stuff. My neighbor above me is a little noisy. That's easily remedied by asking them to put down the rug. Okay. It can be that easy, or it can be more extensive. All right, so we're there. In any event, we're there to address any issue, even if it's necessary to move them again to an apartment that's more suited to their needs. Sometimes we have moved individuals more than once. Individuals suffering from PTSD, traumatic brain injury. All of these things are taken into consideration. If they're in a wheelchair, we're not going to look for an apartment that's a walk-up. We're gonna look for an elevator building. If they're in a wheelchair, we're gonna make sure that it's ADA accessible. That means that wheelchairs are, the doorways are wide enough, the bathroom is wide enough for them to go in and take care of their needs. All right, so aftercare entails a lot of things. Checking in with them, see how they're doing, making sure that the agreement, their rental agreement, their lease is being upheld. They're paying their rent on time. And if things happen, individuals can get behind in their rent, but we're there to make sure that it doesn't get so high that they don't care anymore. Okay, we intercede. We can refer them for what's called a one-shot deal. A one-shot deal can bring them back to zero. Okay, and they can move on and continue to pay their rent on time. Right. At the same time, we're making sure that whatever got in the way of them paying their rent or they're paying their utilities is not an issue. Right. Sometimes we have to ask for outside help, so we'll make the necessary referrals to the appropriate agency that can help. Okay, what types of agencies are that? There are agencies that assist individuals on how to manage their funds. Okay, how do I, in this new world that we all live in, anybody can get behind. Okay? But you have to know what you got, make the best use of your finances. So we may make a referral out to one of these agencies that offer this service free of charge. Okay.
So I did want to bring up one issue that was brought up during the last meeting from Dr. Cleopatra Brown about some issues that she was having helping to house a veteran, that there weren't enough staff to process the HUD-VASH vouchers. And the issue was because there's not a veteran's preference for housing. And so I know we covered a little bit, and I would like you to talk about it again, how veterans can get a preference through hearing or like their vision disability ratings.
So
Lamar, can I take a look at that? Sure. There's two parts to that question. First off, just with HUD-VASH is like it's like Section 8 for veterans. And so for our veterans who have certain income issues, HUD-VASH is a good fit for those who had housing insecurity. We take care of veterans who are not eligible for VA healthcare. So DVS, if you are a veteran and you want to get one of those vouchers, but you're not eligible for VA healthcare, you come to us. The VA will not provide the aftercare for folks who are not eligible for VA healthcare. So for a traditional VASH voucher, they say, hey, you've got the HUD portion, which is actual rental subsidy, but then the VA will check in with you, make sure everything's okay, and do the aftercare. That's for most folks who are eligible for VA healthcare. For those who are not, HUD-VASH Continuum, or HUD-VASH Collaborative Case Management, it's a version of it where we at DVS say, okay, hey, we will cover the gap and do that aftercare stuff. No matter what, those vouchers still need to be processed by the VA. And we're still in a spot where the VA, all these VA health systems here, for every time you walk into that VA and use it, over a 2-year period, if you walk in there, Neil, that's $9,000 to $12,000 added to the budget of that VA center. When we don't have enough veterans going in, they don't have that money. And so this goes back to their budget. So when we don't have as many veterans using the system, they are not able to hire as much staff. And so they're not able to hire as much staff. They don't have as many people who can process the vouchers. And so that's when, to speak to Cleopatra's point, when you peel the onion back, it comes down to we need more of our people to self-identify, more of them to use VA healthcare. And I encourage everyone here who is able, use the VA. I use VA, I speak highly of it. It's just, if for no other reason, then we still have these hospitals because every time you walk in there, you just walk in once, and over the next 2 years, that's $9,000 to $12,000 added to that director's budget for that particular facility. And so this has second and third order effects. So even if it's to be able to create something where more people can do this work, there's benefit to us using VA healthcare. The further extent of it is we don't want these hospitals to be taken away. So that's one piece of it, as far as the HUD-VASH aspect that Cleopatra was speaking to. The other piece of it with affordable housing, Right now, we're advocating internally to have some sort of way for veteran status to be accounted for in Housing Connect. It's an uphill fight for us as far as what we're trying to do at DVS, ice skating uphill, pushing the boulder, basically. Right now, when you go into Housing Connect, there are a couple of provisions where it's a lottery, folks. Roughly, it's, and I'll get this right, out of every 1,000 who enter, 500 will be eligible, 300 will be interested and eligible for 1 unit. That's the lottery. Now, within that lottery, there's certain provisions that are exceptions or additional weighting provided that can be favored. If you work for the city, you get some weight in that lottery. If you live in the community board district of the development, there's some weight for you in that lottery. If you have a hearing, a vision, and or mobility disability, then there's weighting that's given to you in that lottery. And so what we're talking about is right now, we haven't made progress on veteran status having weighting, but many of our veterans may have hearing, vision, disability, hearing, mobility, vision, disabilities. And so how can we be able to work to move things on that? And so that's what we're talking about, is what can we do to better socialize this so that veterans who do have any sort of rating, because number 3 rating is always tinnitus, hearing loss, as an example. So for veterans who do have some ailment tied to the disability, how can we make sure they know, hey, apply for Housing Connect, please make sure you put this down. And then what happens is once you do go through that lottery, so they give you the weighting. Once they say, okay, you know, Brendan, you got this unit, now let's go and verify these things you said. You have to, there's a 1-page, that you have to have a doctor sign, just verifying, okay, this stuff is correct. And so for us, we're in a back and forth over, can we sign if someone is a veteran? And so that's where we are. But the key thing, the takeaway for folks is, for those who need housing, we encourage you to apply. We encourage you to list these things if you have certain disabilities so that you can get to that place. And so the other piece too, to kind of piggyback on what Lamar was saying, this agency, we turned 8 years old last week. We've been around formally since April 8th, not 2016, so 8 years old. When they formed us, they took a few people from what was then the Mayor's Office of Veterans Affairs, and they took 8 staffers from the Department of Homeless Services to make this agency. Core work for us is the homeless veterans mission. So a lot of Lamar's work and his team, their core work is what can we do to continue to keep this number of homeless veterans down and to make it go down further. So for us, this is a key piece when we talk housing as far as what we do. I mentioned an executive, and just say in public session, if you look at housing, it's 4 different rungs, and one rung is emergency housing. I'm couch surfing, I'm in the shelter, whatever, I'm on the street. That's emergency housing. And another level is supportive housing. The next level is affordable housing, and the final level is ownership. At DVS, we're working to get a handle on the next levels here. And so that's something where it's very important to us to this year be able to say, hey, here's what we're doing with the affordable housing piece. Lamar owns emergency, he owns supportive. We want to have someone internally who owns affordable. So with this discussion about, man, Housing Connect is crazy, I don't know what to do, you know how to navigate this, that we have someone on staff who says, look, I got you, let me help you out, let me hold your hand, here's what to do, let me tell you about hearing, vision, mobility, let me talk about other things, including Mitchell. And so I hope that answers the question. Sorry, that was a lot, sorry.
No, so we'll go ahead and open the floor from anybody that's on virtually or anybody in here that has any questions for either Lamar or the commissioner.
I have a question. Neil Jordan, District 1 Commander, Veterans of Foreign Wars.
Yes, sir.
I have a veteran that's she's in NYCHA right now. She has 2 kids, and she's trying to get out of there using her voucher. Could she come to DVS and say, listen, I already have my NYCHA voucher, and could we support her with finance? Like, she wants to move to Queens. Right now, she's in Brooklyn. She wants to move to Queens.
So what I hear you saying, sir, that she is currently is she in public housing?
Yes, she's in NYCHA right now.
She's in public housing,
Yeah.
okay. She can leave anytime she wants to. I'm sure that there are reasons why she wants to.
Yeah, it's not a very good neighborhood, so.
All right, so she doesn't feel safe?
Right.
All right, so I would suggest that she go to NYCHA and request an emergency transfer. Once she has that transfer voucher in hand, I can assist her.
And we say it differently, but the things that Lamar's team does, I look at it as assessment. In other words, someone just coming in the system, just coming in touch with this. What's the best? How can we be of value? Who do we put them in touch with? Another thing I think that his team does is, it's just like HGTV as far as a house hunting. Let's go and help you find what you think is the best place and get you set up. Like literally taking them around, tour and everything.
Yes.
Another piece is processing the voucher itself, and not just, the team covers down a little bit of everything. It's not just HUD-VASH, not just HUD-VASH Continuum, it's also,
Say perhaps, straight Section 8, that's regular Section 8 from NYCHA. We process, rental packages for soda, which is
special
one-time
assistance.
allowance. Assistance. We process them all. You know, we look at each individual. What is the best possible option for each individual? If they are VA eligible, we launch them to the VA because we know the VA has more to offer than just housing subsidy for them.
A lot of our work is with folks who don't have access to VA healthcare. 30 to 40% of the housing insecure people in this city were veterans. They don't have access to VA healthcare. So a lot of his team is working with folks where we got to throw everything but the kitchen sink at this since they can't use traditional VASH. So, yeah, John.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, John Rowan. The access, I thought under the PACT Act now, almost anybody is eligible for VA healthcare.
No, sir. Not anybody.
Well, I mean.
There's certain.
Based on
it's-
discharge?
It's always going to be based on their discharge.
Yeah, that
So
I
it's
understand, but
it's
I'm
funny,
talking
so-
about period of time
so-
of discharge.
They didn't change the eligibility. Someone had to clarify this for me from visit 2 last week, John. It broke my
Yeah.
heart. They didn't market it right. The healthcare eligibility is eligibility. It's the claims piece, as far as that nexus to
Right.
get you the claim. That's the big thing. And I don't think they marketed this right. So it's
Right.
really, and I guess their thought is, well, if I get you a claim, then that may get you a doorway into healthcare.
Right.
But eligibility, as far as after, was it September 7th, 1980 or October something, 1981, where these things changed? They haven't changed that. In other words, it's still, if you go to VA Health, Google VA Health eligibility, that hasn't changed. PAC's biggest innovation is simply these prior conditions are ones that we will
Right.
account for, no additional research. So yeah, I just was back and forth on.
We just have
initial
time
stuff.
here to add to that.
Yeah.
That is correct. Up until last month, they had a press release saying that if you were exposed, if you're from a burn pit registry, for example, you won't get the claims piece, but you will be eligible for healthcare as of May 31st. And they.
As of May
As of May
31st.
31st, yes.
Yeah, coming up.
Okay.
So again,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
claims, but they are increased eligibility just for healthcare itself.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that, because right now, like, right as of, so, yeah, like, I'm so happy to hear that, because we,
Absolutely. I'll be
yeah,
looking at
yeah,
it.
that's,
tomorrow.
this is a big, this is a big barrier for us when we have people who, because they're not eligible for healthcare, it comes to us, and we're doing everything we can to try to
I'm
triage
sure
our
the
PBS
press
stuff.
release for you, after this meeting as well. Just in
Please
case
do.
there's, like verbiage I'm not, completely understanding, because there's always miscommunication as there was in the first place. But, adding on to the or repeating the question though, if what we're saying is accurate, how does that change what you just said in terms of like helping veterans that aren't eligible, it reduces the population?
It's funny, I hope it helps as far as open up more benefits for folks. At the end of the day, we gotta get more people using the system, because if you don't have as many unique patients, the only reason we didn't lose hospitals when we went through this whole air commission thing recently was because the Senate was Democratic control. That's the only reason. But for that, we would have lost at least one of the 2 hospitals between the Brooklyn VA, Manhattan VA. Manhattan VA in particular is seen as being an underperformer. Think of it, the business context, and I'm seeing this more from VA. They look at this as these places are in the red because they are not, at the end of the day, they just do not bring enough people in. So they're in the red, what can we, I'm relucted to give you resources because I already give you money to keep you afloat. And so it's created a lot of other pain points. And that other issue what we're dealing with is, we were in a back and forth with VA about if I'm guard or reserve and I was working 9/11 recovery operations, how do I get my health care? And that was when it came out. And this was last week. So I'm glad that maybe they don't have a new pool, but this was last week. I had guys from Vision 2 say to me, PACT is one thing for that benefits piece, but they still have to go through the whole thing as far as their eligibility for the traditional eligibility for VA healthcare. So yeah, I'm hoping that's the case. Yeah.
I have another question and maybe a little off of what you're doing. I recently had a conversation with somebody who has a family member who had a stroke. He lives in Brooklyn, has a walk-up apartment. Those days are over. He's right now in rehab. he's probably gonna end up in long-term housing or short-term housing, one way or the other, but they're gonna have to change where he is. They're looking to try to get him upstate. They'd like to get him to a VA facility. He may be, if he isn't already, we're gonna pump him up on his disability rating to get him in. That shouldn't be a problem. Cause he had stroke. He's a Vietnam vet. And that, when you throw ischemic on the top of everything else, you're banging yourself to
Does he already have a rating?
Yeah, I think he's a 60 or 70.
Okay.
So he's getting close and the ischemia will push him over. But the bottom line is this, do you folks work in getting assistance in getting long-term housing assistance? More than just a place to live is when they gotta go into a place like Castleton or Montford Point or some of the other facilities around, or Long Island, or Queens, the nursing home in Queens.
Absolutely.
It's state home.
I think they have to have, in order to be into one of the VA state homes, they have to be at 70%, and that will pay for
Right.
their stay.
The VA's taking you 70%, to be
Right.
clear. I know you're at 70%, now they're taking that
Right.
here. with
Yeah,
providing
I
your
get
life support
that.
and all that. Yeah.
I get that, but do you guys, does your office do that, or anybody in your office help
We
you?
can assist. We've assist other, mostly veterans coming out of the facility after a long-term.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, I got a feeling this one's gonna be, he's going in for the rest of it. You know, he's just gonna
He's looking at a state veterans home.
permanently, yeah.
Right, this is one where, good thing, with Bokini having come from the state, we were talking about something about this yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
Bring it to us, like the nexus between
Bring it to us.
Lamar and Bokini, Lamar on the housing side, Bokini on the claims
Right.
side, and Bokini being state, it's we can be
Okay.
able to help figure that out,
We can figure it out.
Yeah, and I was gonna mention with Lamar, so it's the assessment, it's the house hunting, it's the processing the voucher, aftercare is a piece of this. Gotta keep following up, that's its own issue. And it's helping find landlords.
Yeah.
Right now, it's only 1.43% as of last month, the vacancy rate in this city of
Yeah.
units. It's just 1.43. Typically, it's 5% is ideal for a major urban area, so people can find a place, but with such limited options, it's difficult. And so that's its own beast. And so these are just to put it out there so you understand like the work that they do and how it's invaluable. for
Yeah,
this.
on that, just because Don D. McKellar did submit this virtually, please verify this information for homeowners. There's $1,000 bonus to supportive housing providers for each community unit rented to a veteran with a HUD VASH, HPD Section 8, or MRT voucher.
That is not correct.
Not correct.
That is not correct.
He's talking about unit hold, is he talking unit hold?
It's also
Yes.
about
Is it unit hold?
Is the unit hold is only for,
One of the veteran housing rental incentives.
yeah,
Listed.
there is a housing incentive for Section 8. All right. No, I'm sorry, for City for HEPS. There's a housing
Cause it
incentive.
has it listed on the Department of Homelessness site on like the NYC. Donnie put a link to it.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll look into it, but
okay.
that's not something that, the only unit hold that I'm aware of is for individuals who are utilizing a City for HEPS subsidy.
And just so we all, can you explain what unit hold is, folks who understand?
A unit hold means, it's an additional month's rent. That's given to the landlord, as an incentive, a thank you for holding, this unit for one of our veterans.
So Dondi, if you want to add anything, I see you on here.
No, thank you so much for clearing that up for me. I was just curious because I was just on a Zoom not that long ago with Lamar, and he has shared with me that there was no incentives for homeowners. But when I saw this link, and I just wanted
For homeowners, yeah.
There's no incentives for homeowners that I'm aware of. I'm
again,
talking about,
that's what
rent.
I'm
Yeah.
just confirming. I'm just confirming that because when I saw this link and it mentioned that, I was just trying to get some verification on it. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
And then I do want to turn it over to Winston Chan from the CUNY Central Office of Veteran Affairs.
Hello, everyone, and greetings, DVS and everyone. Okay, so I would like to draw attention to the issue that affecting students and veterans across the 25 CUNY campuses regarding about the functionality of the New York City's DVS website. So specifically, there have been reports from students and veterans within the CUNY that I contacted with and try to help out too with technical support. So there's some links that redirects for supports and resources that does not work within the website. And then will it be feasible to address these issues regarding about the redirected links in order to ensure like accessibility to the resources and supports for individuals who is not like proficient in like technology wise?
Can you be more specific? What specific links are we talking?
So like one.
Yes. I will place it in the
Not put it in
chat.
the chat, but one that what
Yes.
didn't work specifically was when they go to get assistance for the VA claims.
Mm.
It redirects to put in like an information, but then that link is broken, the redirect link, that's what he's saying.
Oh,
So he just sent me earlier the one for the claims, but if there's anyone for housing or anything that they go on the DVS website, when it asks them to redirect to input their information for assistance, he said that redirect link is getting an error.
We'll work that. And I'm sorry to acknowledge too, Curtis, Dorval,
Curtis.
our digital communications manager here with his intern. And Winston, thank you. In the future, if anyone sees anything like that, because we have a lot of information, there's a lot of content. We have more content than many states on that site. If we have anything like that, just let us know. You can always reach out through the board or connect@veterans.nyc.gov. Just, anything, just send it to us.
So that's where he went. And when it says request services on Vet Connect NYC, he said that's the link that's not working to get the assistance through the Vet Connect NYC.
Just thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll take a look. But in the future, anything like this happens,
please
let us know and just reach out to just let us know. And yeah, we thank you so much. Thanks, Winston.
Thank you, Commissioner Hendon. Also, I have a couple more questions regarding about the housings. So can you clarify more about what is like coach surfing? And is there a plan in place to address the situations where veterans can attempt to use their GI Bill benefits for housing, but then the only encounter difficulties due to like landlords who do not accept the form of payments?
I'll start, you get it. All right, so Winston, go to nyc.gov/vet rights, and we have a section there that talks about if you're encountering that, because it's violating the city has its own human rights law and human rights commission. You're violating those laws if you as a landlord are telling somebody, I need 2 or 3 months of security deposit from you because you're a student veteran, I don't trust this, the GI benefits. And so just, it's nyc.gov/vet rights, where a section talks about that too. And if you need to reach out, you can come to us or go directly to the city's Commissioner of Human Rights, where I've seen them inspire and motivate landlords to act right. So if a landlord does do this, they do a nice call and say, hey, we heard you're doing this. If we formally hear that you're doing this, we're going to sue you and do X, Y, and Z. And all of a sudden the landlord sees the light. And so if this is happening to people, please let them know. You can come to us, or you can go directly to the city's Commission on Human Rights. And the link that talks about this, it's at nyc.gov/vet rights.
I put it in the chat, Winston.
Yeah.
Okay, appreciate it so much. And then the other question about clarifying about like coach surfing.
Okay, let me say a little bit now. I'll pass to you just a little bit. Is couch surfing. I don't have a place to stay. I'm gonna stay with a friend tonight. I'm staying with another friend the next night. I'm gonna stay with a relative, somebody, but it's not my actual home. I'm just figuring it out. I'm not on the street. I'm here. That's what we think of as couch surfing. But Lamar, you want to?
Yeah, that's our understanding of couch surfing. That is the VA's understanding of couch surfing. That can be remedied. If you are, let me put it this way. If you call me and tell me that you're couch surfing and you're tired of couch surfing, and I'm going to make some suggestions to you. First suggestion is going to be go to shelter. And I'm going to say that because then once you're in shelter, I can work with you directly. You're mine, okay? You're mine to assist. There is another option. If you are VA eligible, you can go to one of the SSVF supportive services for veteran family providers. They can assist you. But more than likely, now that the money is starting to dwindle, they're going to tell you to go to shelter also. But it's a shot. Depending on which SSVF provider you go to, They may still have some money left to maybe put you up in a hotel while they process your VA. If you're VA eligible, they're gonna launch you to the VA to process your application for HUD-VASH. Those are your options.
And you go to nyc.gov/vet ladder. It's a housing ladder where one of the drop downs there gives the contact info for the supportive housing providers. I think the drop down says something along the lines like I'm couch surfing, something like that. But just go through that and it has the list of our supportive service for veteran families providers. The 4 that cover New York City are Volunteers of America. It's goodness gracious, SUS, Services for the Underserved, Jericho Project, and
Help USA.
there you go, Help USA. So Help USA, SUS, VOA, Volunteers of America, and I'm always gonna mess this up. Goodness gracious. VOA, SUS, Help USA, and Jericho Project. But it's on nyc.gov/vet ladder. There was a lot of money given to these groups during COVID. They had more than 200 million to draw from as a pool to be able to triage things. And what Lamar's saying is that money's run out recently, unfortunately. Yeah, but if they can help, they will. If they find a way, they'll try to help you out. And if not, yeah. I hate that we have to tell people to go to shelter because administratively, there's so many programs that you are just not eligible for unless you've gone into shelter. And so the problem with the couch surfing community, we have no idea how large it is because you're not on our radar. And so that's a key issue with it.
I will say this, have I assisted individuals who were not in shelter? Yes, I have. But the situations were such that they couldn't go to shelter. They just couldn't. Chemo, somebody has chemo treatments, or they're 90-something years old. I will bend the rules and I will assume the position of obedience because I did it. And I'm saying that out loud. I have assisted individuals who were 90 years old. I couldn't see a 90-year-old in a wheelchair going into shelter. So I assisted him. Do I still have a job?
You still have a job. That's real. This is real.
This is real. Or if someone has some other ailment that is not the environment of a shelter is just not conducive to. And what I did was I got a medical verification to back me up, right? So there. But if you're pretty healthy, I'm going to tell you to go to shelter until you tell me I can't go to shelter and this is why. And I'll listen. All right. And depending on what you tell me, and I may tell you that the only thing I can do for you in your situation is to direct you at shelter, because when you go to shelter and once you're there, I can help you directly. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Question here is, what is the anticipated time frame for the implementation of support? So a veteran reaches out to you, what's the normal time frame? Like, do they need a plan? Days, a few weeks? Are you able to do it immediately? What does that look like?
What service are they asking for?
Winston, you want to add any?
For the shelter wise,
Okay.
and then for the claims too.
Okay. Today is Thursday. You call me today and you say, can I tell you to go to shelter? And the shelter's open 24 hours. You go tonight, you call me tomorrow, you're mine. I'm working with you.
Let's go further with that, Lamar, as far as he's in shelter, he needs to find a place to stay, et cetera. Like just any, I know it's every situation is unique, but just talking through a little bit of that too, as far as the next step.
It's a process. So once you go, if you're a single male, I'm going to say, go to the 30th Street Shelter in Manhattan. That is for single males. All right. Once you get there, you identify as a veteran. You tell them, you jump up and down, you tell them I'm a veteran. Okay.
One out of two people don't do that. They go into shelter, don't tell anybody. That's a whole other story, but keep going here.
All right. So when you get there, you identify as a veteran. You're going to be at 30th Street for about 7 days to 10 days for processing. All right. Until they can assign you to a permanent shelter. If there is a bed available and you're a veteran, more than likely they're going to send you to right here in Long Island City to Borden Avenue. And that's, trust me, that is the Cadillac of shelters.
Mhm.
It is the Cadillac of shelters. You're there with other veterans, you know, shelter is not, it's not supposed to be totally comfortable. It's not, all right? And I let them know that. I try to prepare them as much as I can, about, you know, shelter life. There are, rules, you know, you have to be in at a certain time, you know, follow the rules, you know, it's not like veterans haven't experienced that at some point in their military career. Be back by, you know, Cinderella Liberty, you know, be back by 12 o'clock, right? That's what that's about. You go there, it's a clean environment, for you to lay your head. You can get a meal there. That's what's gonna happen if you're a veteran. If you're a single veteran, you'll end up at Borden Avenue if there's a bed. If not, they have a shelter, they have a hotel that is also in Long Island City. That's kind of their overflow right now, all right? They try to keep the veterans, you know, in the same regional area, locale. So that's what's gonna happen. I have people embedded, part of the staff at Borden Avenue, right? You contact me, you say, they sent me to Borden. Okay, I'm gonna tell you who's gonna approach you. And start the process.
I did have a question submitted on that. Where do you send the female veterans and those with kids?
Families go to PATH. PATH is in the Bronx, okay? Families with kids, they go through PATH, and that's in the Bronx. Women go to Franklin Avenue. That's their intake, all right? Franklin Avenue intake is in the Bronx. But they don't have a single site shelter for women because, you know why? Because women don't come into the shelter system.
Or they don't designate, because I don't think that it's not that women veterans go.
They don't.
They just don't designate, because I know.
Borden
when-
Avenue used to be the primary veteran shelter for men and women.
Mhm.
But they never had more than, the most I've ever seen at Borden females was maybe 10 in the whole system.
Let me say, because we're trying to identify everyone in the system now, even folks who don't identify, like we're trying, working with DHS, we've been trying to get to a place where every single person in the shelter who's 18 or older, that we will just do some cross checks to see who is a veteran, because right now it's about 1 out of 2 will self-identify who are veterans in the shelter system, so we'll try to get that too. You know?
And I know that Councilmember Holden has worked in Borden to get veterans their own separate space, so not in a communal space. Now that he's kind of worked towards that, is it possible to get the women there? Because the Bronx may be far, especially for veterans that are Staten Island, Brooklyn, to go all the way up to the Bronx, where Queens a little bit more central.
See a little bit of that, and then outlet. So it was the 225 beds at Borden right now.
Mhm.
It used to be more than that. The number of beds was reduced to make the pods happen. You know what I mean? So there's not as much space now.
Got it.
71 of the beds, how many of them are, there's 154 of the 225 beds are VA.
VA beds.
The other 71 are city. The city used to have 100 beds, but the city, the trade-off for doing the pods was to go from 100 beds to 71 beds. And so I just feel like it's not as like, we're not DHS, but just as not outside observer, I don't think it's likely. Yeah.
Were you gonna say something, Ryan?
I'm just curious, what's the number, say like weekly or just say monthly, it's more feasible, that probably come through on the housing side, say like couch surfing or,
I'd say
homeless.
on a weekly basis, we get maybe 30 or 40 referrals.
And that's just us. That's not the whole community. That's not speaking to stuff that may go directly to Bronx or directly to Department of Health. That's just what's coming to us. So, yeah.
So we did have a comment that was submitted virtually. It said there are only 2 showers at Borden Avenue and about a dozen level 2 and sex offenders there. Is there any way that they can bring this up as an issue within Borden Avenue specifically?
The sex offender issue has been brought up many times over the years. We just don't have places. It has to be a special locale.
Zoning.
Zoning.
Places where these people can't be.
They can't be anywhere near school. At any given time, there may be 20 to 30 sections, SOs.
Out of the 225.
Yes, out of the 225
And they're the hardest to help house too because of all of these restrictions.
What about the hygiene of just the 2 showers? Is there anything that can be submitted or assistance there that we can kind of push to get more resources in the facilities?
I would take that up with, I could pose that to the current provider there, which is ICL, Independent Community Living. That's
Yes.
ICL, and that's about all I can do is bring it up. But from what I see, Boynton Avenue is very well maintained, very well maintained. The cleaning, I've seen things broken in a day and fixed the same day. I'm talking about sinks or plumbing, things of that nature. I've seen them, they really maintain that place well. Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, I was there when we opened Borden Avenue originally. I was one of the people that helped get it formed. I had to fight the commissioner in the city to get it done. And it's changed significantly with ICL, in my opinion. I mean, they are running a much, much more professional operation than they've been running in the past.
They'd love to hear you say that.
Yeah, I'm sure they would, because we just got to know them. I mean, again, since things are finally cracking open after COVID being such a pain in the ass, that we finally got to meet these folks. They were a lot more open. They were a lot more allowing us to come in. We had a good conversation with them. We're gonna go start doing some program back in there again. We hadn't done anything in there in decades, and like I said, we helped form it. It wouldn't exist without us. And so it'd be interesting to see where we go with that, but that's an interesting issue. And that is a very tough issue to deal with.
It is a tough issue, and I'm sure if there were resources available, I don't see ICL or DHS turning them down. I really
Yeah,
don't.
ICL has their other places, so they
Yes.
might be an organization and it'd be worth your while to have a sit down in your office and say, where can we go from here? Because you guys are smart enough to go get the money. And their board, we met one of their board of directors who had been, I think, a former lieutenant colonel in the Army. He was a very interesting guy I had a chat with. And the lady who was the head of it, we met with her, and then we met with the folks from who run Borden Avenue, the new people. They were far superior to what I had seen in there. in the
Dr.
past.
Costley?
Yeah,
What's your name?
yeah, they were really good, so I'm impressed. And so I'd like, maybe we can talk to them about creating something specially just for this, for them. That's what they really need. I mean, you can't have a group, operation with sex offenders. It's just tough.
I'd be happy to, to try to
Well,
facilitate something like that.
if you'd like to have a meeting with them someday and you want to invite us in on the party, we'll be happy to sit down with you.
John loves a party.
Yeah, because,
And this came up, we had, I think when Lenny and some of the guys came by and dropped some stuff off. with
Right,
the
that's
chair,
what
And we sat down, and this
Yeah.
came up too, we brought this up to them too,
Yeah.
as far as this issue. So,
Yeah. The idea of meeting and having us come in again like we used to years ago. I mean, that's one of the things that we've run into that over the years when we still had access to all these places. A lot of times they just wanted to chat and wanted to talk to veterans who came in from the outside. And in fact, one of my guys was just talking about that at a meeting today. That they were going somewhere and they were in the nursing home, and it was just the idea. They went there and were just hanging out. And we were from the outside hanging out and just talking like veterans. And had an opportunity to kick things around and goof off and whatever. People like to just chat. And they're stuck in these institutions. I get it.
Mhm.
So.
Any other questions?
May I make a comment?
Yep,
It's okay?
absolutely.
Just, thank you again for just taking the time and having us discuss this. You know, if you know anyone who needs the help, reach out. That's a key thing. We pray that anyone who's listening in on this or who's here in the room, if you come across anybody, this is what we do. And then the other piece, if you know anyone who's interested in renting to one of our brothers and sisters, please let us know. That's a whole other aspect of it where we work so hard to try to find people who will rent to our brothers and sisters. So, you know,
If you know any brokers or
anybody.
landlords.
What's the point if we meet you in that shelter and then we can't find a place for you, you know? So just, these are the things I ask the folks just remember is just, if you know someone, tell them, we will help anybody. If they've served a day, we don't, city, we don't care.
We don't
You know, we don't care discharge, how long, where you serve, whatever, we don't care. And if you know anyone who is open to renting to our people, please let us know. So I just want to say that.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Lamar, for
Thank
your
you for
time.
having us.
We do have a presentation submitted from Timothy Pena from the Forgotten Veteran. So Timothy, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you now.
Thank you very much. So I actually spent 5 months at Borden Avenue, and I initially went through DVS and was not provided the services that they're talking about today. So one of the things that I have done is put together my own resource guide and access to resources from my background in transitional programs. And so I just want to clarify something, that Borden Avenue is a grant per diem transitional program, which means that the VA is paying approximately $4 million to that facility to provide these services for us in-house, instead of sending us out to SSVF and DVS programs. One of the obstacles that I became aware of for the veterans over there seeking sustainable housing or supportive housing is the lack of access to the resources and outreach. So that's one of the things that I've tried to do with the resource guide as I've been putting it together, is in one place, not only to provide services and options for the veterans who are in the system, in the VA system, but also for those who are not eligible for standard Veterans Affairs services. And those come in the way of city FEPS, HASA, and supportive housing options. One of the things that I noticed when I was there was that not enough is being talked about for supportive housing. It is difficult to spend months, sometimes years, in a place like Borden Avenue, which I disagree is not a safe space. I didn't feel safe there, and none of the other veterans feel safe there. So I just, sorry, I disagree with Commissioner Hendon and Lamar about that. One of the things that we used to do in Arizona when I was working with the transitional program there is they have stand downs. And a stand down is basically like a veterans resource fair. And you can get the ones that we used to do, they still do in Phoenix, brings in about 2,000 veterans over 2 or 3 days. They get everything from their ID renewed to filing with Social Security, housing, clothing, eligibility for the VA, a whole wide range of services, including we actually have judges there from the courts who can take on a misdemeanor and settle that misdemeanor right there and quash warrants, reinstate driver's license, things like that. There's one of those stand down events happening in Wayne, New Jersey on Saturday. I plan on being there, and I will be hopefully sharing some of my experiences in almost 2 years in the transitional program and the numerous stand down events that I had done, and hopefully be able to get some valuable information I can pass on as well. I will say that New York, when you go to the stand down, veteran stand down site, we don't have any here. So that's something that I believe is instrumental to us not only getting into for housing, but it's also for veteran camaraderie. You're with a bunch of other veterans who are all going through the same thing you are. And outside of the shelter, outside of the VA and the programming and all the other stuff, it's just a great way for to mix. There is I think DVS is sponsoring this for May 11th. Is that correct, Commissioner?
We have an event. We have an event
in Staten Island.
Yeah, that's the Military
Correct?
Advocate program. So we have an event for military families at the Patrini School on May 11th.
That's in Staten Island, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So these type of events really help the veteran get some type of interaction with other veterans outside of the facility that they're at. Also, I'd like to, we're talking about housing. One of the things that we centralized on was, and I've seen this in New York, is we are taking housing claims, some of our other issues as single item issues. I'm 70% disabled for PTSD. I'm in support of housing, HASA housing now. If I had not known about this program, I would not have been here, I don't believe. I think that there is a misconception that somehow that supportive housing is scary, or you're going to have to reveal something about yourself that it goes back to that stigma or that guilt that we carry when we ask for help. So at these type of events, whether they are specific to housing, where we bring in numerous real estate agents, where we can bring in somebody from HUD VASH, where we can bring in somebody from HRA, where we can bring in somebody from NYCHA to actually help processing some of these documentations. A lot of the veterans have award letters that have expired. So even when these options come up to them, if their award letter has expired, then they're told that they have to start all over again, which is what happened with me. So there are these things that we can be doing to bring in not only the veterans, to set them up for sustainable and supportive housing, but also that'll help them with their mental health, help them, get them a decent meal, decent sleep, access to resources, and something more than, just wait around and we'll get back to you when, when it's convenient for us. I don't, I think that veterans, I was in there and out of there in 5 months. But most of the vets there are spending upwards of a year with a CityFEPS voucher. I had my CityFEPS voucher in 2 weeks. So I agree with Commissioner Hendon and Lamar about the need to have better access to support as far as like processing these vouchers, processing these claims. I've come across dozens of real estate agents and people in the community who are looking to rent to veterans. If we can do some more to promote the incentives for these landlords and these real estate agents, they're on board. They're on board with us.
Thanks, Timothy. And I think that that's a good segue for the DVS staff to go over some of the events that are coming up for May. There's actually a number of events that are focused in different areas. So Commissioner, if you want to turn it over to you present or any of the staff, I know there was a list of upcoming events covering employment, the family event in Staten Island, one to cover what the events are, the dates that they are, and then also where people can get information or access the details to them. I think that would be helpful.
No, thank you so much. So 3 events that are coming up in the near term. One is the METS Military Transition Summit, and that'll be at Citi Field, and that's on Saturday, May 4th, 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And so that's really the focus on that event is jobs and employment, but we really encourage all in our community to come because beyond just it being about jobs and employment, there's also a piece of this where it's just overall connections. We will have a resource fair there, and people can be able to meet Mr. Met, take a tour of the facilities, et cetera. And another aspect of it, we noticed that just like with student veterans, you have veterans who don't really self-identify at the job. And so if you're looking at how can I build a certain culture within my workplace, so I currently am working, but I want to see what we can do to set something up where more of us actually put our hands up and say that we're part of this. We encourage you to come. And so once again, that's it's the METS Transition Summit, and that's going to be at Citi Field. It's on Saturday, May 4th, 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The other event is our Military Family Advocate Day. It's a day where we're focusing on our veteran military families, really for any resources that those families would like to get access to through that veteran military identity. That'll be at the Petrides School in Staten Island on Saturday, May 11th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And once again, that's gonna be 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. as far as for our Military Family Advocate Day. And then a third event to point out that's near term is a celebration for our women veterans, where it will be just an overall workshop on Wednesday, June 5th, from 11 to 3 p.m. for our women veterans, where we just want to be able to have various discussions on issues of value to that community. And that is going to be held at, excuse me, make sure I got this right. It's going to be at the Columbus Citizenship Foundation. We're going to put all this out on social media. We also encourage people to use the site that our friends at the Woodruff Foundation now run, ourveterans.nyc. So you can be able to see these types of events listed on ourveterans.nyc. Look for us from us on social media. And also for the Citi Field event, if you go straight to our homepage, nyc.gov/vets, you can see that listed there as one of the events in the Hero, where they've got all the billboard on that page. The first 200 folks who attend the City Field event will receive tickets to upcoming Mets games. So you get a voucher you can use to select, what game I want to use 2 tickets towards at no cost. And so we really encourage folks to come out. And once again, more to follow on that with the one event on May 4th at City Field, one event on May 11th at the Petriti School in Staten Island, focusing on our families, and one event for our women veterans on Wednesday, June 5th. And that will be at the, make sure I can say it right, the Columbus Citizens Foundation. And we'll be putting this out on social media, but also we encourage folks in general to go to ourveterans.nyc just to see all the different goings on in the veteran community.
And if you want to add anything on Fleet Week, since that is also in May.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Almost forgot. And let's not forget, Fleet Week is from the Wednesday before Memorial Day to the Tuesday after Memorial Day. So Fleet Week this year will run from Wednesday, May 22nd through Tuesday, May 28th. And there'll be several events that we'll post, but also I want to make sure I get the website right as far as nyc.go/Fleet Week. Let me make sure I've got that right and put it in the chat where all the various events are there as far as our sea services coming to town between the Coast Guard, the Marine Corps, the Navy, and also the Merchant Marines. And so just to be mindful of Fleet Week coming up from the 22nd of May to the 28th, or that Wednesday before Memorial Day to the Tuesday after Memorial Day, and then countless Memorial Day events as well. And this is the kind of thing we also encourage folks to go to ourveterans.nyc. We're trying to get all partners to put events up. So if you're looking to learn about something, that it be there. And if you're looking to do something, that you also be sure to post that there. So we've got a one-stop shop for folks to see everything going on in town for Fleet Week. So thank you so much for the reminder.
Yep. So we posted the link to the Our Veterans NYC, so you can see the calendar that does have the information for the events that the commissioner has shared. In the future, if any of you would like to brief during the Veterans Advisory Board meetings, you can email us at nycveteransadvisoryboard@gmail.com. The next meeting for the Veterans Advisory Board will be on Wednesday, June 12th, held in Staten Island at the American Legion Post 1365. The charter area is going to be healthcare, and the topic is going to be mental health. So if you have any resources, again, that you would like to brief, you can email us, nycveteransadvisoryboard@gmail.com. And then I will just ask the commissioner if he can put in the contact information for DVS into the chat. So anybody that's looking to connect with them via social media, telephone, email, anything like that, that you'll have access to that. You can also check any of the meeting minutes for the past year that are listed on the DVS website for the VAB. Do have the contact information for DVS at the bottom of the meeting minutes. So you can review that if you want to get in contact with any of the members from the Department of Veteran Services. So I thank you, Commissioner. I thank you, representatives. Lamar, thank you for your brief, and everybody that's been in attendance. Thank you for your time, and hope everyone has a good evening and safe travels back home.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Before you shut down, just want to put one more thing in. I know you're about to shut it down.
Yep.
Just so we'll put that Fleet Week link in the chat also.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll put that in. Before we're done. Sorry, they don't have the most recent stuff. I'm putting the 2023 one from the Lady League for you, but we'll put more things up. So before you shut it down.
Put it on social media too.
Yeah, we'll put it on social media. So yeah, if you want to shut it down right now, we'll just put it on social media.
All right, thank you.